I've been thinking about God and aliens for most of my life. Not casually. I mean the big question. What are we? Where did we come from? And what if the stories we call religion were not invented by primitive people trying to explain thunder? What if they were trying to describe contact? What if they saw something real, but only had ancient words to explain it? God, angels, miracles, heaven, divine birth, resurrection. Maybe those were not fairy tales. Maybe those were the only words they had. And that brings me to one of the strangest, most powerful theories I have ever heard. What if Jesus was genetically engineered by extraterrestrials? For this video, I am not asking whether that sounds crazy. I am asking something much more interesting. If it were true, how was it done? Because if Jesus was created by an advanced non-human intelligence, they would not have landed a ship in public and announced the program. That would have ruined everything. The mission required subtlety. They needed someone human enough to be accepted, but different enough to change the moral direction of the species. That points directly to Mary. The virgin birth becomes the center of the mystery. Ancient people had no language for artificial insemination, embryo implantation, genetic editing, or reproductive technology. If a woman became pregnant without normal sexual contact, they would call it divine intervention. But what if it was biological intervention? What if Mary was selected as the host for a genetically modified embryo, a child made from human material, but refined or enhanced by something beyond us? That would make Jesus human, but not ordinary. And here is where the theory gets powerful. Jesus was not engineered to be a warrior. He did not come as a king with armies. He came as something far more dangerous to corrupt power, a moral disruptor. So maybe the engineering was not about muscle or conquest. Maybe it was about perception, empathy, calm under pressure, memory, charisma, healing, spiritual awareness, the ability to look at a human being and see straight through the masks. That is one of the most striking things about Jesus. He sees people, he sees fear, he sees hypocrisy, he sees suffering, he sees faith, he sees the person beneath the performance. If he was engineered, maybe he was designed not to dominate humanity, but to understand it. And then there are the miracles, healing the sick, changing the body, restoring what was broken. To ancient witnesses, that is miracle. But if this theory is true, maybe it was advanced biology. Maybe touch, sound, frequency, immune response, or technology beyond human understanding was involved. And then there is death, the resurrection, center of everything. Maybe the resurrection was not magic in the way we imagine magic. Maybe it was recovery, retrieval, suspended animation, biological restoration. Technology so far beyond us that death itself did not mean the same thing to those behind the mission. And maybe the crucifixion was not the failure of the plan. Maybe it was the plan. Because if you wanted to create a moral shockwave that would survive empires, the death had to be public. It had to be unjust. It had to be unforgettable. A teacher who lived quietly and died old might be remembered. A teacher executed by empire and believed to have risen becomes something else entirely. He becomes a permanent wound in human history. A question that never stops asking itself. What is power? What is mercy? What is sacrifice? What is truth? What is God? That is why this theory fascinates me. Because it suggests the intelligence behind Jesus did not merely engineer a body, it engineered a story. A story strong enough to survive Rome. A story strong enough to shape billions of lives. A story humanity could absorb slowly, before we were ready to understand where it came from. Maybe Jesus could not tell people plainly. If he said, "I was created by beings from beyond this world," humanity would have panicked, and there would have been mass hysteria. So he translated the truth into the language of his time. Kingdom of heaven, Father, angels, miracles, Son of God. Maybe those words were not wrong. Maybe they were the closest human words available. And maybe the mission was never to prove aliens exist. Maybe the mission was to change humanity first, to plant a seed, to teach mercy to a violent species, to teach conscience to tribal minds, to teach that power is not the same as goodness. If this theory is true, then Christianity may be more than religion. It may be the cultural memory of contact, not a ship landing in the sky, not a government disclosure, but a person placed quietly into history, a man designed to change what human beings thought goodness was. Maybe humanity was contacted long before we were ready to call it contact, and maybe we called it God.